Hi, I'm David Wahl, the CEO of Wahl Family Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. We were talking about thermostats in our service meeting this morning, and if our service techs have questions and if there was room for discussion, I wanted to be able to talk here a little bit about thermostats and bring you some good information on them. One of the questions that we run into a lot is, should you have a programmable thermostat or non-programmable? And honestly, years ago, programmable thermostats lost their Energy Star rating because they didn't actually save customers any money. And it's my goal to have our customers have energy efficient homes, but also comfortable. So I would say program your thermostat if you're doing it for comfort reasons. If at nighttime you like the bedroom to be a little bit colder and you want to have the thermostat programmed to bring the temperature down a little bit, I'm perfectly okay with that. Where we see customers run into problems is if they have the thermostat set for 70 degrees in the summertime and they go to work and they bump it to 75, 76, or even 80 degrees. By the time they get home and ask that system to recover and bring it back down to 70 degrees, the system was never designed to be able to do that. You might get away with that on mild weather days, but on your extremes, you're never going to be able to recover. The same is going to be true in the heating season. If you like it to be 68 degrees and say that you let it go down to 60 degrees during the day while you're at work, whenever you get home, you're going to come home to a cold house, and that system's going to be working really hard to try and recover. So to answer programmable or not, I would say I personally leave my thermostat at one temperature that feels comfortable for me in my home, and I let the system run. The only time I would even consider adjusting it is if we were going to be out of town for a week or more. That doesn't happen all that often, so really programmable for me, in my mind, the best use of that is for comfort, not for efficiency. Now, I also want to get into these thermostats now that are saying they're Energy Star certified, typically provided by your utility company. I really want to caution anybody on having those installed. One of the main concerns would be voiding a warranty. So whether it's us or another company installing that thermostat, if it's part of a system, there's likely a warranty on it. If your utility provider comes in and installs a third-party thermostat, there is a chance you could void a warranty. I think there's a much bigger reason to not want to use that type of thermostat. These utility company thermostats are designed to shut your system down in peak demand. Let's discuss what peak demand is. A 90-degree day when your AC and all your neighbors are running, and they're going to say, hey, we're going to shut this one down because there's so much demand on the grid, hence saving energy. I'm all for saving energy, just not in that way. So I would really recommend that you stay away from the thermostats provided by the utility contractors, and I would recommend that you get it through a licensed contractor. Getting into some of the more basic questions on the thermostat, fan on or fan auto. Okay, fan auto is going to bring the blower on anytime there's a call for heat or cooling automatically, just as it says. Fan on is going to run that fan 100% of the time. Now, if you have an energy efficiency, variable speed, or constant torque blower motor, that fan is going to use very little energy. It's going to circulate air through the house. It's going to use your indoor air quality products if you have a media air cleaner, electronic air cleaner, or even a germicidal system. So we would absolutely recommend running the fan in the fan on position. Also, if you have that typical Pittsburgh second story that's a little bit uncomfortable, fan on is going to help circulate the air to that floor. It won't fix everything, but we would recommend that that happens. Some of these other thermostats, you're going to see a feature called circulate. It's a little bit more of an oddball, but Honeywell's been doing that for years. And some of the other manufacturers offer it as well. So if you have fan on, that's going to run the fan all the time. Auto is going to run it only when there's a call for heat or for cooling. That circulate feature will run the fan 30% of the time that there's not a call for heating or cooling. So let's say you have an older blower motor that's not energy efficient, but you still want to move some air throughout the house. Thermostat manufacturers have created that feature for that purpose. When we talk about auto, there's a second auto that can be on your thermostat. So most of your stats are going to have heating, cooling, off, or auto. And we're going to discuss what the differences is between those. Heat, pretty self-explanatory. You set it to heat, whatever temperature you put your set point on, it's going to heat to that temperature and then shut off. Same thing for cooling, we're going to cool down to that set point and shut off. The auto feature is really nice, especially for parts of the world like Pittsburgh that experience those shoulder seasons. Yesterday, it was 82 degrees out at the end of the day, and in the morning it was in the 50s. So in my home, being in the home comfort industry, I prioritize comfort. And so we run ours at our home in the auto position. And the thermostats that we really enjoy installing are the Honeywells. The T10, the T6, and the T4 have been really solid top performers for us. They have some logic built into these thermostats that it allows us to have a 0-degree deadband. And deadband might not be a term you're familiar with, but we use it a lot in our industry. And basically what we're describing is, what if you set the heat to 70 and the cool to 70? Wouldn't that fight itself, right? It's gonna heat up to 70, then the cooling's gonna kick on, it's gonna cool it fast and go back and forth. Well, the engineers at Honeywell have really done a lot of science-based testing on this, and they've put an algorithm inside the thermostat that won't allow it under most conditions to ever fight itself. We have hundreds of these thermostats installed in Pittsburgh with no complaints, and we put it into that auto mode. When we touch this thermostat, we can see it's set for 73 degrees right now. And it says cooling to 73, that's why our screen's lit up blue, but then it says heating to 70. So what I can do on this stat is actually bump this up to where that says 73 and that says 73. So now if it happens to get cold in here, it goes below, the heat will kick on. If it happens to get hot in here and go up to 73, the cooling will come on. Instead of picturing a 1 degree Fahrenheit as something maybe this big, the thermostat is able to look at it on a much larger scale. So they're able to use the sensitive electronics in here and the microprocessor to say, hey, they can actually watch the temperature approach that set point. They can see how long it took to get there based off the outdoor temperature. And then also historically, it'll store data on how your thermostat and your home responds to calls for cooling or heating. There's a lot of technology packed inside of these. The next thing I would really like to discuss is Nest thermostats. So Nest captured the market of an attractive looking thermostat. They ran great marketing campaigns, but functional, I don't believe personally that they're a good thermostat for anybody's home. Most of the Nests have an internal battery that on extended run times can actually die and leave you without heating or cooling. I don't think a product that is designed that way should ever be installed. I want to have a reliable product. Our thermostats are powered by the HVAC equipment themselves. That's how we install them, so there are no batteries to die. The T6 and the T10 that's behind me here, both are Wi-Fi compatible. And the app that Honeywell has built to control that, it pairs with Alexa, Apple Home, all of the companies you would want them to partner with if you're into home innovation. There's constant updates, it's easy to get into, it's easy to manage. With the T10, there's even remote room sensors. If you have trouble balancing the temperature in your home, the T10 has different sensors we can put out to use the airflow balance. It's a pretty cool product. But the Nest in general doesn't offer the features that, as a contractor, I would like to see in the thermostat. And as far as the thermostat and the consumer is concerned, this is the point that you're interacting with your system. And we believe that the Honeywell lineup has the most robust features. And I don't get any kickbacks or anything from Honeywell for saying this. As a company, we just try and pick the best product for our customer, not necessarily what brand is pitching us the hardest, and Honeywell has been the best for a long time. We talked about batteries in a thermostat, and the Nest has an internal battery, and they made it so convenient. If you want to recharge it, you can take your thermostat off the wall, find a micro or USB-C and go plug it in somewhere. I think that's horrible. Our thermostats, like I said, are powered off the system themselves. Some of them do have battery backups, and they're going to be AA or AAA batteries inside of them. With those thermostats, you might, every time you change the batteries in your smoke detectors or carbon monoxide alarm, want to throw new batteries in there. They don't use a ton of power. It's typical that what we see, we get some of these nuisance no cooling or no heating calls. The batteries haven't gone out of power, but they've started leaking, and then they corrode inside the thermostat. So for the cost of a couple AA batteries, or if you happen to have a licensed, awesome HVAC contractor in your house, say, hey, would you mind changing those batteries? And I'm sure we'd be happy to do that for you. Something else to consider if you're having heating or cooling issues in the home, or if you think the thermostat doesn't just read right, we want to consider locations. So if your thermostat's in a kitchen or bathroom, that can be problematic. If it's behind a TV, even some of the new energy efficient TVs still give off energy, and they can actually heat up a thermostat. If it's above or below heating ducts, that can also cause an issue. That's where the T10 and some remote room sensors can help balance that out. But keep in mind the location of your thermostat. Is sun shining on it through the windows, where sometimes you have the blinds closed? That can cause intermittent issues. So those are all what we see, and we had a great discussion this morning on what customers are bringing to us and what internal conversations we have about thermostats. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them in the comment section. Feel free to leave that down below, but hopefully learn something about thermostats today. Thanks.